The gospel lesson today is taken from Matthew, continuing the readings that Doug Christie made last week, starting with verse 11, starting with verse 16. But to what shall I compare this generation? It is like children sitting in the marketplaces and calling to their playmates. We piped to you, and you did not dance. We wailed, and you did not mourn. For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they say, he has a demon. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, behold, a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. Yet wisdom is justified by her deeds. And Jesus is commenting upon John the Baptist, who at this point is in prison. And after a skipped series of verses that I'm thankful for because I have a number of unpronounceable city names, it continues. At that time, Jesus declared, I thank thee, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, and thou hast hidden these things from the wise and understanding and revealed them to babes. Yea, Father, for such was thy gracious will. All things have been delivered to me by my Father, and no one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and anyone to whom the Son chooses to reveal him. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. This is the word of our Lord. When God first created humans, they were spherical and rolled around, but they had two faces, 4 arms, 4 legs, 2 sets of privy members, and so on. They were powerful and arrogant and tried to conquer the very power of God. So he said, I will cut them in 2. And if they continue insolent and will not be quiet, I will split them again, and they shall hop about on a single leg. And so he did, with a little remodeling. After the division of all humans into 2, each half passionately desired the other half. Ancient is the desire which is implanted in us, reuniting our original nature, making one of 2, and healing the state of man. Each of us, when separated, is always looking for the other half. When one of them meets with his other half, the actual half of himself, the pair are lost in amazement of love and friendship and intimacy. These are the people who pass their whole lives together. Many of you will recognize the translated words of Plato, placed in the mouth of the wit and playwright Aristophanes in the dialogue The Symposium from about 380 BC on the general subject of love. Aristophanes has been called the father of comedy. The Symposium is a root source of the concept of romantic and chivalric love and the idea of a soulmate. J.R.R. Tolkien of The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit had a lot to say about soulmates. He met Edith when he was 16, and she was elderly, 19. As an orphan, he was forbidden by his guardian to meet, talk to, or correspond with her until he reached the age of 21. And he did as told. The moment he turned 21, he wrote to her, he did not message her, to ask her to marry him, but she was already engaged to a good friend of his. But soulmates they were, and marry they did. 3 years later, in 1916, not a good year in Europe, when he had, in his words, quote, no job, little money, and no prospects except the likelihood of being killed in the Great War. Indeed, he was posted to the trenches of the Somme, experienced the horrors of war, and returned deathly ill to England after 4 months, shortly before his unit was nearly wiped out in combat. Ronald and Edith remained married until she died at age 82, and he followed her 2 years later. Nonetheless, Tolkien wrote, nearly all marriages, even happy ones, are mistakes, in the sense that almost certainly both partners might have found more suitable mates. End quote. Spouses, he said, in truth are just, continued quoting him, companions in shipwreck, not guiding stars. The real soulmate is the one you are actually married to. End his quote. Companions in shipwreck. What a wonderful image and concept. Two individuals thrown together almost by accident. This would include the wondrous arranged marriages of Asia, given common goals and challenges and trying to solve them to the advantage of both. In other words, according to Tolkien, soulmates are made, not created by reunion of Aristophanes' divided souls. I find the cynical argument that marriage can never work to be a fulsome, fat fallacy. It goes something like this. Two people commit to marriage until death do us part, when they are immature, hardly know each other, and are certain to evolve over the years in different ways, possibly very different ways. The teenager, the young adult, the midlife person, the senior, can bear very little resemblance to each other. So why should one evolving person continue to love and remain married to that other, also ever-changing individual? If their lives happen to coincide successfully at one stage, why should they so continue? I could say the same about my own self as a single entity. I can remember very well the insecure 15-year-old, the confident young professional, the persecuted and underappreciated mid-career chemist, and the cancer-ridden sexagenarian, all with different values, different appearances, and different objectives. Nonetheless, I held on to him and stayed with the evolutions required to carry all those individuals to the one standing in front of you today. Similarly, the married couple undergo changes but evolve, cleave, and grow together. That is a wonderful word from Genesis and the marriage ceremony, cleave. It originally was two entirely different words. One pronounced cleave, meaning to divide, and the other pronounced clive, meaning to stick together. The two words amalgamated into a single word, like Aristophanes' soulmates. So we have one English word with opposite meanings, happily coexisting. The one driving force for the couple is the primacy, the preeminence of the relationship, and I capitalize relationship. Between the two individuals, the relationship must always remain as the guiding light, to use Tolkien's words. And by relationship, of course, I mean love. The two egos become the dual ego of the mutual love, growing, interacting, evolving, intertwining, changing. No one is exclusively right or wrong. No one is first or second. It is always a process of evolving the best solution for the united pair. It does not mean they always agree. I often disagree with myself. So why not disagree with my spouse? The important point is that the differences are respected. The primacy of the relationship means reconsidering everything, including whatsoever things are true, honest, just, pure, lovely, and of good report. For most of us, the most important individuals in our life after that one person are our parents and children. Earliest in a couple's evolution is the realization that their relationship takes precedence over those with their parents. In Luke 14, Jesus emphasizes the nature of commitment. If you come to me but will not leave your family, you cannot be my follower. Thus for spouses. In Genesis 2:24, therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and shall cleave unto his wife. It is wonderful as all is well on the parental front, but the couple are creating their own lives. The couple's lives should extend long after the parents' lives and should stand on their own. All parents know that being a parent never stops. The kids may grow up, move away, marry, become distant, but never for a moment do parents stop worrying about them. Nonetheless, children too must respect the preeminence of their parents' relationship as they create their own lives, and they will continue after their parents are gone. The primacy precedes love of country and other groupings. I do love the United States and believe it is based on the purest principles ever conceived for nationhood. But just as there are many soulmates in a world population of 7 billion, there are also many beautiful nation states. To give one example, Poland is a small nation of a few million people, attacked over the centuries by Germany, from your point of view, on the west, Russia on the east, Sweden on the north, and both the Austro-Hungarian and the Ottoman Turks from the south. The Poles developed the concept of the elective king, and they saved Western Europe from total Islamic conquest when they turned back the Turkish invasion at the Battle of Vienna in 1683. They survive as one of the loveliest countries in the world, and I would not mind being a Pole at all. It is difficult to state without blasphemy from a pulpit that the relationship takes precedence over religion. But it is complicated. Here I'm taking the term more in a formal sense, representing one of the many forms of tribalism, cultural accoutrements that we receive from our families that largely are the accident of birth, not culture that we develop and accept during our own lives. Religion is a spiritual journey we all should take, lasting our entire lives, so it will co-develop with the relationship over the same many years. The career, of course, is subservient to the relationship. I certainly applaud the enjoyment, the rewards, and the satisfaction of a career. Still, the career does not define the purpose. It should be the other way around. All career decisions should be the result of the same mutual respect and negotiations that search for the best result for the relationship. The relationship conquers tragedy, disappointment, and mistakes. The existence of the relationship gives strength in tragedy, relief from disappointment, forgiveness for indiscretions, and redemption for all three. The model of the evolving couple, the half-century marriage, is not the only ideal. And I have been careful to ignore the gender of the individuals. The varieties of human experience are manifold, and many people find satisfaction in their singularity, their sologamy, to use a neologism. These folk find nothing more pleasing than returning to their solo home in the evening, reading a good book, going alone to a movie, eating at a table for one at a nice restaurant, and finding new experiences in new places while traveling by themselves. Multiple marriages, one after the other, often are the only feasible path. Maybe bumpier, but the only way to fulfill one's life. Divorce, indeed, is a wonderful as well as a terrible institution. These paths can be rewarding and should be respected. Let me finish with a few comments on the nature of this love between two people. The English language contains almost 1 million words, many times more than the next richest language. Yet, it uses the single word love to represent many different types of relationships between two people, between people and concepts, between people and things. How can I love my wife, my children, my parents, my God, my country, my Yale, my Spurs, my chemistry, my clarinet, and my chocolate in all the same way? Yet I use the same word. The Greeks had at least 3 words. Agape for selfless love for God and other humans, philia for familial and brotherly love, and eros for passionate love. Only the relationship of 2 committed people combines all these forms of love. Esteem tinged with desire. In the words of one of my academic colleagues in an essay he wrote on the subject, neatly combining agape and eros, but omitting philia. And couples certainly are best friends forever, the hallmark of philia. Their relationship incorporates friendship, respect, desire, forgiveness, comfort, acceptance, enjoyment, and even silence.